Hello, everyone. It is Friday, February 1st, 2019. Happy February. This is kops Office Hours. I am your moderator, facilitator, Justin Santa Barbara. I work at Google. A reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will hopefully be put on the internet. There is some challenge around YouTube authentication, which I am working through with some help, but hopefully this one will actually put on the internet. The AWS ones are being put on the internet. This particular one, I don't actually have. I think some of them are being uploaded, but they aren't necessarily being put into the channel. Anyway, eventually this will make its way onto the internet and you will be seen. So be mindful of that. Please be a good person and respect our community ethics standards. And the agenda is in the notes. Please feel free to add anything and add your name if you would like to, so that we can figure out who you are, or people watching later can figure out who you are, or get in touch with you about things you talk about. I put a bunch of things on the agenda, none of which are, I think, particularly pressing. Well, the first two are not particularly pressing. So just a public service announcement that, as I'm sure people are aware, AWS testing, or, oops, my machine is being very slow. I don't know if I froze.
We can see it. I can see it.
Okay, and you can hear me. All right, I will just keep talking and yell at me if I am talking over someone or something like that. Next time I freeze. So AWS testing is currently off, not working right now. There's some confusion about paying the bill, I think is the best way to put it. That will get resolved fairly soon, I imagine. And so the AWS tests are currently non-blocking in KK. In kops, we are doing our best. We don't have other tests. We have unit tests, but we don't have other integration tests other than on AWS. And bringing up a second platform would probably be a fair amount of work, although we do have some tests on GC. Oh, anyway, I can look at that, but hopefully AWS tests, that is the sure way to make sure AWS tests come back online, is invest a lot of time in the second platform, and then the minute it is ready, AWS tests will be back online. But until that happens, we are merging pretty cautiously. So OpenStack PRs, for example, which is great to see. We are feeling like we can merge those because we wouldn't get a lot of signal on them anyway from the AWS tests. So we're relying on non-integration tests or non-cloud tests. But some of the AWS tests are a little bit harder. Some of the AWS PRs are a little bit harder to merge with confidence. And in particular, that's holding up 1.11.1, which is a minor release of the 1.11 series, including some PRs. This does mean that the two big ones are, I think, a backport to enable Docker, a particular Docker version, which off the top of my head, I want to say 1706, but that's probably wrong, to be installed on RHEL and CentOS. And then a bump to take etcd manager to a version which includes some important fixes, as identified by Ryan. And so that people that do activate etcd manager get a better version by default and aren't on latest, for example. And so yes, if there are other things that should go, or you believe should go in there, or you think maybe should go in there, please do either make sure they have a cherry pick label, or as someone has done, put them in the notes and we can go through them. It looks like 6362 has been highlighted as one that is a good cherry pick candidate.
Yeah, it's one we identified last week. It's just not labeled.
I will definitely label that one. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Hey, Justin, before we move on from some of the AWS stuff, in terms of any of our dependencies that non-testing wise that pull from AWS, are we in risk of any of those breaking?
No.
Okay.
They are on a different account. The other thing that I'm working on is I don't know if I pushed it up. I guess I didn't push it up. I have a PR that introduces mirroring behavior, so that we can have a list of URLs and pull from a list of URLs. There's also separately work happening in the Kate's infra team to establish a try not to laugh, to establish a CNCF account, which will, just like the AWS CNCF account, will run these things in a reliable fashion. And we'll be able to serve things from there. I think we will also likely have multiple accounts, including some GCP accounts. And like Google gave a fairly big grant to the CNCF, so there's hopefully no short-term problem in terms of figuring out. I think it was like $9 million if I remember. So that should cover a couple of years of bills, hopefully. But yeah, so if we have multiple locations, then we do this. I did debate, actually, I tried a bunch of things. I did debate putting those artifacts, when you create a cluster, one thing we could do is we could copy the artifacts into your bucket.
As a backup, yeah.
Yeah, so that essentially, once your cluster is created, you're never reliant on something, or you're not reliant on something outside the cluster. The challenge is at least node up, the first component, would have to be world readable. Would probably have to be world readable, which means that like then your important bucket has a mix of ACLs in there, which is a little scary. And then the other problem is sort of a user thing, like uploading a big binary will make cluster creation much slower. So I'm starting with a simple mirror, and if anyone has any clever ideas about how to do that, whether we should have like some sort of cache that we auto-populate or like do it on the server somehow, I'm all ears. But first step probably is likely going to be setting up a list of URLs, and we can pull by, we'll always verify by hash, so it doesn't necessarily particularly matter what's like where you do or don't get it from, or if one of those is offline, or if one of them gets like redirected to some random person's website. Like it doesn't matter, because the hash is what enforces things.
Cool. Yeah, I just want to make sure that our tests being broken weren't the only issue.
Yeah, so the tests are on their own account. Yes, like it's a deliberate thing, right? That account is it runs code that is less vetted. Like PRs are generally less vetted, and so we don't, like, it is its own account. And I think it will always be a separate account from any serving infrastructure.
Of course. Great.
Is the reason that NodeUp needs to be publicly readable because it's being downloaded in user data via like curl or wget or something? Yeah,
exactly. And so that's where, we could, like AWS S3, get it. Yeah, but that's exactly the challenge, right? Like, how do we do that nicely in the user data script? Okay, if there's nothing else, I will move on. There are some other, I put two other things on the agenda. I'll just talk about them quickly, and then we can answer like the things that other people wrote. I don't want to dominate the conversation. Like, it's great to see OpenStack in progress. If anyone wants to talk about that, that's great. And then the other thing is that I put up the PR for the etcd3 upgrade docs describing like the exact path and sequence. It's basically what we talked about last time, but there are words now, or written down words now. Basically, because the move from etcd2 to etcd3 is disruptive for HA clusters, we sort of do TLS and the Calico to CRD migration at the same time. But there are steps there, which I have tested on how to break up those steps so you can run them independently if you want to. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because it doesn't necessarily buy you a lot in terms of like, you then have two disruptive upgrades, for example. But the steps are there if you are happier doing that sort of thing.
I was trying to figure out so I work for Tigera, and we do Calico. My curiosity was why do you have to go to CRD now, or what's the motivation, I guess, for doing that?
I think it's about trying to lock down etcd. So we're trying to be more secure, and we don't want anyone, or I'm suggesting that we don't want anyone writing into etcd that is not API server.
Okay.
It's that. So like, it could be a separate etcd, or it could be but it shouldn't be the same one. It feels like CRDs are the right way to go as well. Like, they work anywhere. Like, a lot of people are.
Right, yeah. It just seems unfortunate to, have that huge disruption.
Yes. Well, that's sort of the, that's why this is the right time to do it, I think, because effectively it's going to be a disruptive upgrade anyway. It's a little bit more disruptive on Calico because it involves the nodes.
Yeah.
But it is we don't have many opportunities to do it, and this feels like the time. Is it a bad idea to go to CRDs?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I'm trying to think if there's any features that aren't like I guess the IP handling will switch to using what is it? Host local. Yeah,
oh.
Yeah. Host local instead of being Calico backed. But I mean that is actually coming soon. There's work being done on that. But no, I was just somebody had brought up that it was going to be disrupted to go from 2 to 3. And well, I added the disruptive option, but didn't. No, sorry, for etcd, not from 2 to 3 with the CRDs.
Yeah, Ryan and I tested some of this, and I think we found some challenges. Like when we go from etcd2 to etcd3, we don't necessarily migrate. We do one of the things is the way we do the rolling update is that we basically do each master as a unit, and we don't like roll out etcd then roll out API server, or like roll out, have the ability to do multiple steps of that nature. It's sort of externally driven, which made it challenging. The other real problem is we turn off etcd2 the minute we turn on etcd3.
Okay. Yeah.
Which we realized causes problems, but was sort of required for a safe etcd2 to etcd3 upgrade. Because when we ran both, we were like, oh, this is like, we don't really know what's going on anymore. So that's how we did that.
Okay. I won't try to go into that too much. It's interesting. Okay. All right.
But I mean, like, if you want to try to figure out a better way, then I would be very happy to have that way.
Better way of doing which part of this are you talking about?
A better way to get from where we are, which is I think users running Calico 2 with etcd direct to at some stage probably around by the time we get to 1.13 we have to be running etcd3, and we would by the time we get to like at some stage this year we would like to be running etcd with TLS, and we want to be running Calico 3 because Calico 2 is older.
Right. Yeah. We want you to be too.
So that's sort of like where we are and where we want to go.
Okay.
CRDs are, I guess, optional, except that like part of the security stance, I think, is not opening etcd to third parties.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like people that are not API server.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. I just saw this morning, so it was kind of short. I haven't thought a lot or talked to any colleagues about it much, so I just wanted to get a little input.
Yeah, that's. I mean, if I would very much welcome any input, and if you want to, any help is greatly appreciated there.
Okay. Quick question: the recording from last week, has it made it anywhere, or is that still in the same boat as what you mentioned earlier?
I will check. It might be on my person. So what the procedure is, I upload it onto my YouTube, and then I put it into the channel. And what I'm not sure about is whether it made it up there. I will at least put it in my YouTube, which is admittedly a little weird, but I mean, you can watch my YouTube.
Sure. Okay. I was just curious because I heard you talking earlier, and I didn't know if there were some out there, and I just didn't know where to find them.
I will double check, and I will try to put them in the. I'll put links in the. I'll put links in the agenda notes, and either they will also be in the channel if I now have permissions, or they will be not in the kops channel if I do not yet have permissions. But at least the links will be there, and you'll be watching my thrilling YouTube, which I think it looks like I liked my KubeCon tour, Jeff and my KubeCon talk last December. So yes, great stuff in that YouTube channel for everyone to enjoy.
If you're looking for more information on the Calico upgrade challenges we hit, going from Calico 2 to an etcd 2 to Calico 3 and etcd 3, the cops meeting right after KubeCon in Seattle, we discussed it quite a bit.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So I will put up at least the last couple of, like 3 or 4 videos and put them in on the relevant date, and hopefully they'll also be in the channel.
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you if you're able to find any advice is gratefully received. There's actually something which looks interesting, related. Shane, Calico 2 to 3 migration CRD, is that related?
Yeah, I wanted to see if that was ready to be tested out, because I tried migrating from Calico 2 to 3 with kops' current setup and it failed. And so I was wondering if the CRD stuff may fix my issue, or at least I could test it out and find out. So I'm already running etcd 3. I don't know.
You're running etcd 3 with CRDs or not with CRDs?
Not with CRDs. So I'm running etcd. So I'm currently running Kubernetes 112, etcd 3, Calico v2.
So sorry.
And when I attempted the upgrade to Calico v3 and kops, it failed miserably.
The challenge is if we go straight to Calico v3 with CRDs, we do it's effectively a network partition. So you basically have to go. The strategy that we're recommending is to go as fast as you can, and not validate and cross fingers that it comes back happy, which is admittedly a little scary.
Sure.
That's where I very much welcome input. But yes, it should work. And I think if we're able to get these merged, I will look at your issue, but if we're able to get these merged, yes, that should be exactly what I will double check that exact scenario, but
I'll bring up a clone of a cluster and test it out this weekend to see if the CRD PR fixes the issue and goes through.
I fixed a bunch of, I checked a bunch of these paths. For example, the one I definitely tested was kops 111, Kubernetes 111 is etcd 2, and then you go to etcd manager with etcd 2, and then you go to etcd 3 with etcd manager, and then you go to 112. This is with Calico, and that one you do as fast as you can because that's one that introduces CRDs with this PR. So yes, it should work, but yes, I will double check your scenario as well. And if you're able to double check, that would be great. Yeah, it's a little awkward that we can't merge things right now.
We don't need etcd manager to go from Calico v2 to v3, right? If we're already running etcd 3?
Correct.
Okay, because we have TLS on, so we can't use etcd manager at the moment.
So etcd, we do add TLS support now.
Okay, that's now sorted.
That turns on. I should test that actually. That's something I haven't tested. etcd 3 with TLS to new TLS, because we also split the keys. So I need to double check that works. I think it's right, but I will double check that. That's an interesting one. All right. So many scenarios. We are at least simplifying the grid. The grid is becoming much simpler.
Shane, do you know what piece is failing for you, or everything?
I think the primary failure is just the deployment manifests that are being used in kops, because I think it was originally written to have a certain configuration, and the newer version of etcd 3 that it's trying to use isn't compatible with some of the config that's being passed in. So I don't think it was purely an issue with Calico itself. The PR is, or the issue number is 6261 that I opened in kops. And that has a little bit more information in there, but not a ton. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to actually dig into it yet. I've been putting it off.
Sure.
Yeah, but that's it on my part for that stuff.
So Eric, one thing you should be aware of is we did not add the migration pods in the 112 thing because there's no migration anymore, because it.
Right. Yeah. If you're you're talking about for the CRD. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it looks like Shane was hitting a migration issue. Maybe.
Yeah.
but yeah, thank you, Shane. Well, I'll have a look at that. Next thing, if there's nothing else on that topic. Next thing on the agenda, sorry, someone talking?
Continue.
Sorry, okay. Next thing on the agenda, D. Sotaman. I don't know your first name. Dennis. Hey. Oh, there you are. Hey.
Hi, sorry for being a bit late.
No worries. Yes, you have a AWS launch configuration 2 templates, status and an issue, which looks good.
Yeah, I put up an issue in November talking about like moving to launch templates, as it offers, of course, the new features that AWS provides, like combined person models, mixed instances, etc. And I saw there was a PR created actually to get some of that in, but not sure how exactly, like if that is actually everything or if it's just part of it. So I'm just wondering what the status on that is, if anyone is aware.
Yeah, I actually personally haven't looked at this. I don't know if anyone else has looked at this.
Yeah, I haven't dove in too deep on this one yet. There's a bunch of changes. I mean, so he pushed a lot of changes since I last looked at it. And I know he needs to rebase based on some other changes we've made. I mean, it's a big PR.
Right, yeah, so that.
I would imagine that, I don't know if we can guarantee this for 112, but I imagine at least soon after. I mean, I want it. I think a lot of people on this call probably want this. So
right.
I think it's definitely, I'm glad you're definitely bringing it up as a, as a point of information.
Yeah, because I actually wanted to pick it up, but I saw that the PR was already created, so I was like, okay, it's already in there. But otherwise, I'll just respond on that issue and see if there's any help needed on it.
I think it looked pretty good code-wise. It was just his rebase thing and getting stuck. I think he even rebased in the meantime. He just still has it on hold.
Well, there's still some conflicts, it looks like right now.
Maybe he came back up. Like, I know he rebased once, and I just left it on hold, being like, yeah, when you think you're done, unhold it. But
yeah, I think he wants to, he wants the review and then a final rebase, and then we'll move on. But I think the one thing we can do is make sure that, Alex's recommendation of adding more configurations, that we should try to make sure those aren't added on within this. We can just add another PR. And, people should add subsequent PRs off of this to keep adding more work on. We don't need to bake it all into this PR so it keeps growing.
Right.
So as long as we can encourage people to do that, if you find any holes, I'd encourage you to, branch off of this one, start working on it. And then, once we get this one merged, we can add more features.
Right.
But yeah, I'd love to see this get merged. I'll definitely take a look at this today as well.
Yeah, for us, especially combined person models is one of the features that we could really use.
Totally.
Yeah, I wanted to dig into what people are. Is it the mixture of Spot or Spot and on demand, or is it the mixture of instance types, or is it what are the features that we are looking for here? Because I think we should get this in, but I think also there's relevance to the working cluster API. And I think one of the things we can do is where we have this, we can communicate to cluster API who are building something like a Kubernetes-ified or Kubernetes native version of this, I guess, like what the requirement is. So I'd love to hear from people what people are most excited about.
For me, at least, it's the mixture of instances. So running a fairly sizable infrastructure, sometimes we've hit issues where AWS runs out of types of instances. And so having a fit fallback could alleviate some pain when that happens.
Yeah, we definitely hit that in our testing where some regions are like out of C4 larges, and yeah.
Yeah, and we're similar. For every instance type we use, then we have it in at least 3 regions, which means 3 auto scaling groups, launch configs, and then we double it so that we have spot and non-spot instances and stuff like that. So we have a lot, and we have it all automated, so it's fine by us. But I think this would clearly simplify it a little bit. Either way, I'm happy for it to be in cluster API too. I just, if this is headed in the right direction, it might be easy to get it in the short term, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we should get this. I'm not saying we should. Yeah, I think we should get this in. I'm not saying. I'm just. I think we should definitely communicate the requirement.
Totally.
What about, are people excited about mixing spot and non-spot, or is that less exciting for people?
That's definitely for us interesting, especially because we have a pretty small cluster. So we're actually running everything on spots, including our masters, which is, I know, a bit tricky, but we have stable spots, so it's fine for us, but we would still like for a backup to go to on-demand. So if that could be automated by AWS, that would be perfect, of course.
Totally.
Makes sense. So spot with a fallback to on-demand.
Yeah.
That's what we would do too. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Is anyone actually one more on that, Justin? The follow-up question is Fleet. Is anyone actually looking at it for Fleet capabilities as well? We don't really use Fleet for anything, so I was curious if anyone else.
Right, what are Fleet capabilities? Can you define what that means?
I don't know. It says it in the PR. It says instance policy / Fleet. So
I thought Fleet was the mixture of instance types. I don't know whether other people see it as more than that.
That's also my understanding.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then my bad.
I mean, like there's. My guess is that this is the next gen of Fleet.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone would. I don't know whether there's a reason to use Fleet if you have whatever this is. It's actually called mixed instance policy. Or catchy names.
I think Fleet. They also have a thing where you can you guarantee it for 8 hours versus it can be shut down at any point. There's a few other flags like that you can do. But anyway, cool. Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
That was good. Thank you for calling attention to it as well. That's great. Okay. The other thing that we sort of skipped over, which I don't know if people want to talk about, is we have a lot of PRs going in for OpenStack, which is wonderful. I don't know if anyone is here that is working on OpenStack that wants to talk about it or ask any questions, but otherwise we're going to keep reviewing PRs, I guess.
Yeah, I did my name is Derek Lemon. I'm kind of new. I did the initial PR for OpenStack. I work for Cisco. We were using KubeSpray before, and we had some issues with people deploying more clusters than maybe they need. So we're trying to get into more of an instance group supported model. So I think me and Jesse are testing it largely. We're really beating the crap out of it. We're destroying, scaling up, deleting things, updating. So it's still pretty new. And then we'll try to get issues fixed as they come. Right now we have just me and Jesse's environment, and I don't know how different they are than others. What we could really use is an environment with Designate, right? Because neither me or Jesse have Designate. So I know we got some requests into OpenLab. Hopefully we can get some end-to-end tests written for OpenStack, since all OpenStack deployments are quite different from one another. And then, I'll see how much of my time from Cisco can be devoted for it. So
that's wonderful. We really appreciate it. And if there's anything we can do other than review your PRs in a more timely manner, let us know. I think one of the big blockers has always been figuring out what the right way for people that don't have a private OpenStack to test is. I've been told Alibaba Cloud, I think, is a good one. And I think OVH is also OpenStack based. So maybe we can also try some of those. But yeah, all the work you're doing is wonderful, and thank you so much for it.
Sure. Yeah, I'm also very interested in the cluster API stuff and moving something there, because I think that might be consumable for any kind of auto-scaling capability that we want to introduce into OpenStack as well, since we have nothing in regards to heat. We're not using heat, so.
Yes, it absolutely. I don't know if there's a cluster API provider -AWS. There's a cluster API provider GCP, I think, and then there is a cluster API provider OpenStack. I don't know who's working on it. I'm just pulling it up, but it looks like there's some. It looks pretty active. Last PR 2 days ago. So, but yes, that will exactly enable you to do the cluster autoscaler is going to integrate with cluster API. So it will be, in theory, I want to say better. It will be an autoscaler that is aware of the Kubernetes workloads. And so because it has more information, it is better able to make autoscaling decisions. So that's the reason to use a Kubernetes autoscaler rather than a cloud level autoscaler.
Yeah, so I imagine
And
AWS
then,
might even move this way too then?
You mean on AWS, would we use this instead of autoscaling groups?
Yeah.
Very possibly. Autoscaling groups do have two nice things. They both do the autoscaling, and they also are self-rebooting, as it were, self-repairing. So like our masters still run in autoscaling groups with a min and max of 1, which is a nice, so you can like turn off all your nodes or like a power failure scenario and they will come back. Fingers crossed, touch wood, but yes, they all come back. So that's nice. And that's obviously harder to do if you're sort of self-hosting your autoscaler, but most clouds also have some form of instance protection or relaunch capability, which is sort of the same thing. But yes, I would certainly encourage you to look at the cluster API provider OpenStack. I think it would be great to see whether we haven't yet done an integration. I'm hoping we can get to the point where we do have an integration, at least for the nodes with kops. The masters is a trickier situation, but we can at least get the nodes working in this way. And then autoscaling will work. Autoscaling of your nodes will work. Once the cluster autoscaler goes through the cluster API. But if you are interested in this, there is a cluster. The cluster API is being done as part of SIG Cluster Lifecycle. It's a subproduct of SIG Cluster Lifecycle. SIG Cluster Lifecycle meets every other Tuesday, I think. And Cluster API has a breakout meeting, which is quite good, every other Wednesday. And I would encourage you to attend those. I think that'll be, it's like a fun new project that I think is moving quite quickly, and it feels like it's the right place to do that. It also, kops doesn't run after, like kops only runs when you create or update a cluster, whereas the autoscaler is a controller, or the cluster API is a controller, and so it runs all the time.
Yep, sounds good.
But yeah, again, thank you for all that work you're doing. It's greatly appreciated.
Oh, no, I really needed it. So our other tools were not that great. So
okay. I don't know if anyone else has any other topics they would like to bring up or discuss. We should have a best dog competition. I see some good dogs in the background there. But otherwise, I wish you all a very happy weekend. And thank you very much.
See everyone.
Happy weekend.
Yeah. Bye.
May your AWS tests run.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they fixed it on Saturday, you know.
Yeah.